Good morning. At this time, the meeting will now come to order. Ms. Griffith, will you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Werner?
Here.
Mr. Damp?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Anderson? Mr. Armenter? Mr. Blossman?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Mallett?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Morrow?
Here.
Mr. Starnes?
Here.
Mr. Temple?
Here.
Mr. Woods?
Here.
Mr. Zischlag?
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we begin today, I would like to announce that Supervisor Stone Cox will serve as the acting chair of the Academic and Research Committee. Also, a couple of housekeeping matters. I want to thank you all for observing our regulations that we are abiding by for the state of Louisiana for the safety of our campus and for our students. Everyone staying masked unless you are the speaker, and you may remove your mask. And then I'll try to remind everybody to put your mask back on so that we can keep this facility safe for our students who are returning next week. So we will now begin. Today's invocation will be given by our student board member and LSU student body president, Stone Cox, and the Pledge of Allegiance by LSU student Ricky Bryant. Would everybody please stand?
Our great and heavenly Father, I'd like to begin today's meeting with offering up praise to you, O Lord, for you are holy. May you help guide us to become more like you in everything that we do, so that we may mirror your image. I ask as we return to campus this fall, you help keep everyone safe during this return as they come back to LSU. And finally, I'd like to thank you for sending your son Jesus Christ to die on the cross for our sins, so that we may have new life through him. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is board tradition for about the last 20 years for the students who come to give the pledge and invocation to have a few moments to address the board. So I'd like to invite Mr. Cox. I'll let you go first, and then Mr. Bryant, tell us a little bit about your course of study, the work you do at LSU, and a little bit about yourself.
Hi, LSU Board of Supervisors. I'm the new LSU student board member. I was sworn in last meeting. I'm a rising junior here at LSU A&M, majoring in mechanical engineering, and I have the pleasure of serving as LSU student body president for the year 2020-2021. And I'm originally from Houston, Texas, but moved to Lake Charles my junior year of high school.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant.
Yes, my name is Ricky Bryant. I am from Bossier City, Louisiana, and I am currently a mass communications major here in the Manship School of Mass Communication with a concentration in political communication. And I currently serve as the Attorney General for student government here at LSU. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It is wonderful to have students joining us at this meeting, and we thank you both for your service to this community. In July, the governor appointed 4 new board members to join us at the LSU board, and today is their first meeting. I'd like to welcome all of you here today. Three members took their oath of office with family members earlier this morning, but now I will administer the oath of office to Mr. Richard Zischlag. Today, we have no one registered for public comment. Unless there is any objection, I will move that we recess. Hearing no objection, the board is now in recess. Mr. Cox, will you please call the academic committee meeting to order?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Griffith, please call roll.
Mr. Anderson, Mr. Armenter, Mr. Cox,
Here.
Ms. Jones, Mr. Mallett,
Here.
Mr. Morris, Mr. Morrow,
Here.
Mr. Zuschlag.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Cox, you have a quorum.
I call on Dr. Haney to present the agenda items today.
Thank you so much. And the first two items on the agenda today will be presented in a single presentation by Chancellor Ollier. So Chancellor Ollier, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Well, thank you very much. It's delightful to be here despite the different circumstances. It's good to have it in person. I like this. I have two centers of excellence that are here for reapproval. One is the Neuroscience Center of Excellence, and the other is the Cancer Center of Excellence. We have some slides on this. I don't know if they are able to be shown, but the Neuroscience Center is an entity that was founded in 1989, one of the first centers of excellence that LSU has approved. It provides a multidisciplinary approach to advanced understanding of brain functions and diseases of the nervous system through research, development, mentoring, and innovation. It's been recognized nationally and internationally in Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, pain, stroke, brain and spinal cord injury, and retinal degeneration. It's been directed by Dr. Nicholas Bazan, a MD, PhD, and a Boyd professor. Dozens of interdisciplinary faculty enhance the scope of activities in basic and translational research and novel drug development. New grant funding over the past 5 years has exceeded $55 million. The key discoveries have been a new class of safer, non-addictive pain medication. To give you an example, Tylenol is a common medication, but it has significant hepatic injury, liver injury. This new drug that they've developed has all the pain relief benefits of Tylenol, but without any risk to the liver. They've also looked at mechanisms for brain cell communication during stroke and compounds to protect cells against neurodegenerative diseases. Over 70 inventions leading to patents, licenses, and startups have been founded by this Center of Excellence. It has national and international prominence. There's a lecture series that's been going on for the past 40 years, bringing globally prominent scientists, including multiple Nobel laureates, to campus for 1 to 2 day interactions with our faculty and students. There have been multiple international collaborations and awards, and graduates have been placed around the state and indeed around the world. In community service, it's been the leading creation of a statewide Alzheimer's disease consortium. The SUN program, or the Summer Undergraduate Research Program in Neuroscience, has been taking high school and college students to give them an introduction to neuroscience research. And economic development has been prominent through this new venture, through new venture creations. The Stanley Scott Cancer Center was founded in 1990 with a multidisciplinary approach to cancer research, education, outreach, and patient care. The mission is to decrease cancer incidence and mortality in Louisiana, especially for those citizens with greatest need, the medically underserved and minority population. Special focus on molecular signaling, population science, genetics, and viral carcinogenesis and immunology. It combines basic science, population science, and clinical science. It has also led to the development of a new department of interdisciplinary oncology, and it's directed by Dr. Augusto Ochoa. We have over 100 affiliated faculty, multiple specialties and schools. The selected key initiatives include a minority-based community clinical oncology program, or the MCORP, an $11 million NIH COBRA grant to mentor translational researchers, and it set up the Gulf South Clinical Trials Network. This is statewide, and it's now involving Dillard, LSU Minority Health, and Health Disparities Research Center. It's the first NIH-funded health disparities research center in Louisiana. new grant funding over the last 5 years has exceeded $85 million. It has regional, state, national, and international collaborations in cancer research. Community service over the last 5 years led to a tenfold increase in patients enrolled in clinical trials. It's doubled the number of sites offering access to clinical trials, and it's enhanced focus on health disparities through large federal grants. Planning is underway to compete for NCI designation, and a national search for the director of an NCI designated center has been launched in support from LCMC. I think it's important to notice that one of the new initiatives that is underway is they're using telemedicine to take the potential for clinical trials to be brought out into the communities so that a physician in his office, if he's seeing a patient who has cancer, they can call in directly on telemedicine interview with the patient and get them enrolled in a clinical cancer trial. Truly something that is very much needed now, even more so since the onset of the pandemic. So we'd ask for your approval for this renewal of these two centers. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions? All right, let's take the resolutions in order. First, is there a motion to recommend the proposal related to the Scott Cancer Center?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Is there any objections? Without objection, it is approved. Next item. Now, is there a motion to recommend the proposal related to the Neuroscience Center?
So moved. Second.
Seconded. Is there any objections? Without objections, it is approved. Dr. Haney, next item.
Thank you. So the next item is a request for a one-year conditional approval of the LSU A&M Early Childhood Institute. In 2012, the Louisiana legislature passed the Early Childhood Education Act that mandated the overhaul by 2015 of the government's licensing, accountability, and funding structure of all publicly funded early learning programs for children birth through age 4 in our state. Louisiana is now requiring all early child care professionals to have certain additional certifications. LSU is one of the first universities in the state to comply with these mandates, with our most recent submission to the Board of Regents and to Bessie for the Early Childhood Ancillary Certificate Program. The Early Childhood program has faculty with expertise in care and education of the birth to age 5 populations with decades of expertise, and also maintains the LSU Early Childhood Education Laboratory preschool here on our campus, which serves as a laboratory for the generation of cutting-edge research in the areas of child development and education. The Institute will link our expertise in early childhood education with critical need for highly educated early childhood workforce and researchers and advocates to advance the profession of early care and education. The College of Human Science and Education will provide initial seed funding to support the launch of the Institute. And we submit this for your consideration.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to recommend the proposal as presented.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded. Is there any objection?
I'm sorry, was that Mr. Temple that seconded the motion? Okay, Mr. Temple
Yes.
is not part of the academic committee, so it would need to be another member of that committee.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Seconded by Mr. Damp.
Mr. Damp is not a part of the academic committee. Okay. Mr.
Second.
Morris.
Seconded by Mr. Morris. All right. Is there any objection? Without objection, the item is approved. Next item.
Yes, the next item is an approval for a memorandum of understanding with engineering and the Kane Center to create a pre-engineering pathway gold STEM SEAL scholarship. And the scholarship will support high school students in a competitive application who complete a STEM curriculum in high school. And this scholarship is similar to the pre-engineering pathway where students earn an LSU-issued certificate of course completion towards a gold STEM diploma seal issued by the Louisiana Department of Education. This $1,500 scholarship will be awarded competitively to an incoming freshman who has completed the curriculum with a 3.5 GPA and will be majoring in engineering, computer science, construction management, or other STEM fields at LSU. The number of scholarships awarded will depend on the competitive pool and available resources. Bessie has approved the STEM pathway as a Louisiana Jump Start career path option. And of course, Accounting Services has reviewed the scholarship and approved. So we submit this for your consideration.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to recommend the proposal as presented? And please state your name when making that motion.
Richard Zuslaw.
All right. Is there a second?
Lee Mallett.
All right. Is there any objections? Without objections, the item is approved. At this time, I will accept the motion to conclude the academic committee.
Lee Mallett.
Is there any objection? Without objection, the committee is adjourned. Madam Chair, the academic committee has concluded.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mr. Woods, would you please convene the Property and Facilities Committee?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Griffith, please call the roll.
Mr. Woods?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Jones? Mr. Mallett? Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Starnes?
Here.
Mr. Temple?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Zuschlag?
Here.
Mr. Woods, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have only one item for consideration today. I think it's basically a housekeeping matter from a previously approved item. I'll ask Mr. Winston DeQueer to present the item, please.
Yeah, this item relates to a housing project at the Health Sciences Center, New Orleans, for which a resolution was approved by this board on January 10th. That resolution was amended at the board meeting to make a condition subject to receiving variances from the New Orleans Board of Zoning Adjustments. We were fortunate with some help from Dr. Oye and especially Mr. Woods and a few introductions. We were successful in obtaining 6 variances for the building in July, and the attorneys have simply asked that we re-adopt the resolution without the conditions related to the variances, so it would be a clean resolution.
Are there any questions on the item? Is there a motion?
I so move.
Moved by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Blossman.
I'm not on that.
Excuse me.
I'm not on
I'll
that.
second.
Wayne.
Mr. Brown, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Second by Mr. Brown. Any objection? Hear none, it's approved. At this time, I'll accept the motion to conclude the committee meeting.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Temple. Hearing no objection, Madam Chair, that concludes our business for today.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Damp, would you please convene the Legal Affairs Committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Griffith, please call the roll.
Mr. Dance?
Here.
Mr. Armenter? Mr. Anderson? Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Mallett?
Here.
Mr. Morrow?
Sorry. Here.
Mr. Starnes?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Woods?
Here.
Mr. Damp, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. I will congratulate the General Counsel on his birthday and ask him to present the item.
Thank you, Board Member Damp. This is another housekeeping resolution. What this resolution does is authorizes the president or any person who's acting as president to sign any authorizations given by the board to the president prior to January 1, 2020. What we discovered is that several board approvals for projects in 2019, where the paperwork was coming through this summer to be signed, the resolutions contained the name F. King Alexander, and our attorneys have asked for our outside counsel to help with closing have asked for a general resolution basically stating that the person who serves as president is now allowed to sign as president on any of those prior approvals.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to recommend the proposal as presented? Mr. Morrow has made the motion. We need a second. Mr. Storms makes a second. If there is no objection, the motion is adopted. At this time, I will accept a motion to conclude the Legal Affairs Committee. Mr. Morrow makes a motion. Mr. Storms makes a second. And without objection, we are finished, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, keeping us on track. Okay, the recess of the board has now ended, and the board will now return to order. Next on our agenda is the approval to amend the LSU board bylaws to address voting and establish the Inclusion and Diversity Committee. These items were sent out to the board with 30 days notice. You've all had time to review. The first order is the amendment that clarifies the votes necessary for committee action. There was some contradictory language within the bylaws, and the motion is to just clarify that language, making both sides match up in language. The second motion today, or the second item, and the real impetus for the amendment of the LSU board bylaws, is to create the Inclusion and Diversity Committee and set it as a permanent committee of this board. Over this summer, we have had an extraordinary several weeks, wonderful opportunities to meet and discuss with our students and our faculty and our staff what LSU should look like going forward. By this action, the board will make a stand and have a permanent line of communication and a supervisory role over the work we intend to do to ensure the inclusion of every student, that each faculty member, no matter their background, race, religion, male, female, or any other identifying characteristic, lets them know that they are a welcome member, an honored member, an LSU Tiger in this community and in this state. Are there any comments or questions on these items? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution? I'm sorry, Mr. Williams.
I just want to say, I want to thank you for your leadership in creating this committee. I also want to thank you in general for your leadership during this time of social awakening, and your leadership in creating this committee is an example of the leadership you've shown throughout this time in our history, and I want to thank you for it.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you. It's been quite an experience, and I am honored to have had the opportunity to lead the university through this time, which I see as our new stepping out into this new world that is a long time in coming, far too long in coming. And I want to thank all the members of the board and the president, the administration, Dr. Haney, everyone who has worked with us, and all the chancellors sitting before us who are working in their own campuses and their own communities, that we make sure LSU, everyone knows, LSU is the inclusive university it was always meant to be. At this time, I'll accept a motion to adopt the resolution.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Woods.
Please can I offer an amendment to the item to reverse it to say diversity and inclusion versus inclusion and diversity, just keeping with nationals.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now, a motion to accept the amended resolution.
Yes, so moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Moved by Mr. Damp, seconded by Mr. Zuschlag. Is there any objection? No objection. The motion passes, and the bylaws are hereby amended. Thank you very much. I would like... At this time, I'd also like to say that our new supervisor, Mr. Collis Temple, has agreed to serve as the first chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of the Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Mr. Temple. For your approval are the minutes of the board meetings held on June 19th. These minutes were previously provided. Are there any questions of the minutes? I'll accept one motion. I'm sorry. I'll accept one motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by, Mr. Blossman, seconded by Mr. Damp. Is there any objection? Without objection, the minutes are approved. We'll now move to personnel actions requiring board approval. At this time, I would like to move to executive session to discuss a personnel matter related to the annual evaluation of the president. Is there a motion to move to executive session?
Move.
Second. Second, moved by Mr. Wood, seconded by Mr. Damp. Any objection? Without objection, we will move to executive session. I will ask the board members to join me in the executive session.
That'll be my treat for you. I'll bring the appetizer card. Oh, I know. Okay, that's good. Tough time. I get to stay for another month?
Yeah. Here's the unofficial report.
So what kind of things you spending your time doing now?
Well,
Still do.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
It's an experience.
I didn't.
Jim, would you wave at them?
All right, where'd I put my glasses?
On your head.
Where's
mine?
I'm glad you already did the evaluation.
The executive session of the board has concluded, and we are now back in session. We'll now move to reports from the faculty and staff advisors. Professor Robinson will present on behalf of the faculty advisors.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to give thanks to the Board of Supervisors, administrators, IT, particularly IT. Those individuals behind the scenes really have helped faculty immensely, particularly in this trying time where we've had to convert our in-class classes to online. Their job is phenomenal, and it's helped us, in essence, do this whole transition extremely smoothly. And of course, the students and faculty members themselves have 8 issues that the various faculty members have sent in that they would like addressed for the board. First of all, faculty raises. We've had no merit increases for 5 years. Basically, faculty working 3 times as hard to accommodate 3 teaching paradigms. Without complaining. Secondly, a 36% tax on graduate student stipends is considered unreasonable by the faculty. Want to know why this tax is justified and levied. Additionally, the faculty have supported graduate students throughout the shutdown without question. The 36% tax depletes funds needed to support students so that they complete their programs that are delayed by this shutdown. Thirdly, faculty are concerned about the lack of safe testing centers. The Proctor U is costly, which it is for students, and quality has not been acceptable for a lot of faculty members. Fourth, the faculty have concerns about the symptom checker that will be mandated by administration. They question whether HIPAA is being appropriately followed, including where information will be stored and who will have access to it. Fifth, ownership of, quote, instructional materials in the form of recording seems to be inconsistent between PM 15 and the Board of Supervisors regulations. Specifically, it appears that LSU has ownership of any and all material in recorded form. Similarly, security and current teaching platforms are inconsistent and uncertain. Students are able to download recorded content even when the security features are in place. Given these 2 points, the faculty are uneasy about recording all lectures and material. 6, many frustrated on lack of accurate messaging from upper through local administration. Faculty request that college policy chairs be included in dean's meetings with the provost. 7, smoking and vaping have serious potential to contribute to the spread of COVID-19. If masks are mandatory and failure to wear masks is a violation of the Code of Student Conduct, so should smoking and vaping be. And last, and this is mine, which I always bring up, non-voting faculty membership on the Board of Supervisors would be advantageous so that we have a faculty perspective on all the issues being addressed. We do have a voting student member on the Board of Supervisors. This would be good for the Board of Supervisors, basically because we can help refine issues and potentially enhance teaching, which of course would be advantageous for the students and the universities they're representing. And lastly, I intend to have another Association of Louisiana Faculty Senate's meeting this coming September at LSU Alexandria. I will be contacting the governor to see if he will speak. I'm sure he will. It'll be on a Saturday. Usually we hold it in the last or thereabouts Saturday of the month. Y'all are certainly invited to attend. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Professor Robinson. The staff advisors have submitted a written report which will be entered into the record. In summary, the staff advisors report that the staffs across campuses have been assisting in the return to campus, as well as supporting the remote learning and service environment. The Staff Senate at LSU changed their bylaws. The Ag Center moved the Master Gardener program online, which if you have not had a chance to look at or avail yourselves of, I'll take personal privilege, please do. It's fascinating and very informative. And the LSU staff are preparing for an in-person graduation tomorrow. And they are very excited about that. And I am very pleased that I will be able to attend the socially distanced in-person graduation at LSU tomorrow, which is the spring graduation being held before the beginning of the fall semester. So congratulations, Chancellor Sorensen, for your staff being integral in putting that together. Thank you. At this time, we'll have the President's report.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It is wonderful to be meeting in person once again, albeit separately, and I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but I am smiling. And I want to offer my very warm welcome to our new board members, Collis B. Temple Jr., Randy Morris, Pat Morrow, and Richard Zuschlag. Thank you for your service to LSU. I know you will be great assets to the board. You already are, and I'm extremely excited to be working with you to ensure that LSU remains a national leader in academics, research, athletics, and service. I also add my happy birthday well wishes, God bless you, to my colleague and friend Winston DeQueer Jr. So happy birthday, Winston. As anybody who went on the tour this morning knows, we are laser focused right now on finalizing preparations for the return of our students and the safe physical reopening of our campuses. Before I give you the latest updates on the fall semester, let me share with you some of the highlights of our summer term and our latest graduating class. Summer enrollment was up at the flagship campus this year, and we celebrated more than 500 summer graduates with a virtual graduation celebration last Friday. Tell them I can't take it. Our August 2020 class set some significant milestones. Among them, we awarded the highest number of undergraduate and graduate degrees to Black students, Hispanic students, and multiracial students in LSU's history. Summer 2020 also marked the highest number of Hispanic students earning a doctoral degree, and we awarded the most graduate degrees to veteran students in our history. Degrees awarded to out-of-state students was also the highest on record for a summer term. As for the other campuses in the LSU family, LSU Alexandria is expecting to celebrate its second largest summer class in history with 87 anticipated graduates. LSU Health Sciences in Shreveport graduated 65 students. The Health Science Center in New Orleans graduated 22. And as you've already heard, LSU Eunice will confer 28 degrees physically distanced tomorrow. LSU Shreveport celebrated its spring and summer 2020 graduates with a virtual celebration last Friday with nearly 500 August graduates. Now to the fall. All of us are extremely excited to begin welcoming our students back to campuses for the fall semester. But I want to stress that we are taking a very cautious approach to the resumption of in-person classes, particularly at the flagship campus due to our large student population. And we are prepared to reverse course if it becomes unsafe to physically be on campus. I hope we don't have to do that. I don't think we'll have to do that, but we will do what we must to keep safety first. Now, I've known you heard me say this before, In fact, you just heard me say it, but safety is our guidepost. Safety is our #1 priority. I have great confidence that the guiding principles, policies, and procedures included in our roadmap to fall plan for the flagship that we released last month will keep our students, faculty, and staff safe. That said, some things are out of our control, and we need everyone to do their part if our plan is going to be effective. Our message to students and to employees as we prepare to begin classes is that their actions will have a huge impact on how the fall semester unfolds, and it's vital that they adhere to all university, local, state, and CDC guidelines. Earlier this week, we issued a presidential directive on COVID-19 safety, which outlines the protocols that all members of our flagship campus community have to follow to protect one another. These include wearing a face mask while in classrooms, buildings, public. Can you hear me? Look, you can do this with a face mask on. Buildings, public transportation vehicles, and inside any indoor space when 6 feet of physical distancing cannot be maintained, as well as outdoors in public corridors when we can't safely distance. The directive also outlines our mandate for isolating students who test positive and quarantining those who come in close contact with someone who tests positive, and it clearly explains enforcement of the protocols and potential disciplinary action through our Code of Student Conduct and Office of Human Resource Management. We've also developed a pledge of personal responsibility that we're encouraging all students, faculty, and staff to take, which commits them to following all public health guidelines, monitoring their health daily for potential symptoms, adhering to capacity limits, and modifying their actions as guidelines and recommendations evolve. And we promise they will evolve, so stay current. Some students who live in residence halls have already begun arriving for move-in, which is much, much different this year. It's being spread over several days to ensure everyone can move in safely and stay as physically distant as possible. And Stacy, really, the first big move-in day is tomorrow. Beginning tomorrow morning, can only be on campus for 2 hours. You can only bring 2 people with you. The whole extended family can't come to say goodbye. They can text you or Zoom you. LSU law students will begin classes on Monday. They're in orientation now. Classes for the rest of us will begin on Monday, August 24th. We're installing, Dan Lizell and the physical plant folks are installing plexiglass shields in all classrooms. They're making sure the podia are more than 6 feet away from student seating. No room will have more than 50% seating capacity in it. We're installing directional signs. You go in this way, you come out this way. The corridors are one-way streets. So with all this, how does our enrollment look? Our enrollment, while not finalized yet, is very promising, and the numbers appear to be bucking the national trend. Once again, we're expecting to welcome one of our largest and most diverse first-year classes in LSU history at the flagship. We'll have the final numbers after the 14th day class census, but right now we're anticipating seeing increased enrollment at the majority of our campuses, including a record number of students at our Shreveport campus and in Shreveport online programs. As for how courses will be delivered, we anticipate about a third will be held fully in person, a third will be a hybrid of in-person and remote, and a third will be fully remote. However, all faculty have designed their courses for potential disruption, and again, I hope we don't have to do it, but if we have to, we will alter our course if necessary. Our ongoing work to cultivate an inclusive, equitable, and diverse campus community continues and will continue throughout the year and beyond. And the wonderful committee that we just appointed to the board is a fantastic thing, and we will keep you apprised of our progress. We had a day-long retreat on inclusion, equity, and diversity, and as we speak, 9 groups on our campus are working towards implementing that report and coming up with the detailed steps that we will take to make this an even more inclusive and more welcoming community. Earlier this week, we announced the 16 faculty, staff, students, and alumni who will serve on our building name evaluation committee. The committee going forward will consider existing building names. Any recommendations to remove a building name will first be evaluated by the existing naming committee, followed by the Executive Vice President and Provost Stacy Haney, then me, then the board, Academics Committee, and then the board. I also want to note on the theme of diversity and inclusion that LSU Shreveport recently appointed Dr. Kenna Franklin as its first Assistant Vice Provost for Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, and LSU Alexandria has established an Administrative Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee. Thank you. So thank you again for your continued support of this most important work. Now, what else have we been doing during the pandemic and focusing on diversity and inclusion? Well, the U.S. Army awarded LSU a $10 million transmission electron microscope. It will allow our researchers to examine physical and chemical properties at levels smaller than the atom in partnership with the U.S. Department of Defense. Our applied research entity, Stevenson Technology Corporation, was awarded a $25 million federal contract for groundbreaking work to protect our state's energy infrastructure. LSU College of Music and Dramatic Arts alumnus Bill Conti and his wife, LSU alumnus Shelby Cox Conti, generously donated one of the largest in-kind gifts in LSU history: the original scores from Bill's award-winning career as a composer and conductor, including those for The Right Stuff, the Rocky and Karate Kid film series, and the television series Dynasty. Some of us remember Dynasty. LSU professors Stefania Cormier and Rebecca Christofferson have developed a saliva-based test to help track COVID in K-12 school children and teachers in Baton Rouge. LSU Alexandria was recently included in University HQ's Most Affordable Colleges and Universities rankings, which noted that LSUA offers the lowest in-state tuition in Louisiana, along with high retention and graduation rates and above average graduate salaries. LSUA also received a $435,000 award from the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana Foundation to help fund scholarship opportunities for nursing students. Good going, Paul. LSU Eunice has begun offering a variety of gameful learning courses aimed at helping K-12 teachers better engage with students as they're physically distant by leveraging online resources and personalizing instructions. Thank you, Nancy. LSU Shreveport physics professor Dr. James A. Maxon and student Thomas Ford published an article on particle physics, nuclear physics, and cosmology that was scored as being in the top 20% of all scholarly research. Good job, Larry. LSU Health Sciences Center Shreveport Vice Chancellor for Research Chris Kevel was awarded a $1.7 million grant from the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute for his work on CSE regulation and vascular remodeling. A team of LSU Health New Orleans pathologists published what is believed to be the first case report on pathologic findings of vasculitis. I think I said that right, Larry? Pathologic findings of vasculitis of the small vessels of the heart, which resulted from their research on COVID victims. Thank you, Larry. The Pennington Biomedical Research Center announced its students are developing a smartphone app to make it easier for people to stick to their diet plans by gauging calorie consumption, supported by a $1.8 million grant. The LSU Ag Center launched an online farmers market called Food for All to help Louisiana growers sell their produce and other local goods as the COVID pandemic has reduced the marketplace. And this is at no cost to the seller. Nice job, Bill. Thank you. And lastly, just last week, legendary LSU gymnastics coach Dee Bowe announced that she is retiring after 43 seasons, during which she built our gymnastics program into a national powerhouse, served as one of the Tigers' most beloved and passionate ambassadors, and most importantly, helped shape the lives of more than 200 young women whom she coached and mentored through the years. Dee has dedicated her life to LSU and our gymnastics program. As a pioneer in her field with unrivaled passion for her university and profession, she embodies what it means to be an LSU Tiger. We're very grateful for Dee's countless contributions to LSU, and we wish her the very best in her much-deserved retirement. But we're also thankful that she will continue to be an active member of our LSU family and the athletic department. Now, as I was reading just some of the news articles about Dee Dee's incredible career following her announcement, I came across a quote of hers that struck me as being relevant for all of us as we prepare to start a fall semester that will be unlike any in our history. Quote, "You don't come into work every day thinking, oh, it's okay if I'm just average," Dee Dee said. LSU has never been just average. And as we move forward, all of us, and I mean every single one of us, needs to commit ourselves every day to continuing to being excellent, above average in everything we need to do to protect one another, from washing our hands regularly and keeping physical distancing and wearing our masks and monitoring our health. If we give all an excellent above average effort, I am confident we are going to have a successful fall semester all across LSU. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Moving on in the agenda, this month we have 2 reports to accept. These reports include a quarterly investment report and an audit report. We also have the proposed 2021 board meeting dates. I will accept a motion to accept the required reports and the board meeting dates. Is there a motion? Mr. Williams, second. Mr. Starnes, is there any opposition? Without objection, the reports are adopted. I will entertain one motion to approve all committee recommendations that were presented for board approval today.
So moved.
Mr. Damp moves. Mr. Blossman makes second. Is there any objection? With no objection, the committee reports are adopted. So for the chair's report, first I want to take a moment to thank all the folks I see sitting in front of us today, and certainly President Galligan. Today is another day of historic proportion for LSU. Many people have lamented the year 2020. This year has proven to be challenging on many levels. We have paused every norm that we have known: school, sports, work, socializing, celebrating, grieving, to be with friends and family. Today, I'm so happy that we could come back, albeit socially distanced, but that we are back in person on this campus. The supervisors toured classrooms to observe the work that has been done on this campus in preparation to welcome students and faculty back for the beginning of the fall semester. And I know that work has gone on across all campuses. We welcome 4 new members to the Board of Supervisors, and we make history. The diversity of this board continues to grow and reflect the diversity that is our university and our state. Our campuses across the state and our Ag Center have continued to serve students and families. Our health science centers have never stopped serving patients on COVID and continuing regular health care. Pennington has continued to work for the U.S. Army and research for those health issues that we battle in Louisiana, including diabetes and obesity. That work has continued. Though the research may have slowed, it has never stopped. In fact, through the leadership of President Galligan, Provost Haney, the chancellors, and the entire administrative team across all 8 campuses, our research stations, and our Ag Extension offices that pivoted to be sure we could continue to serve our 4-H students and children across the state as young as 5th grade. The work has continued. We have continued to serve each community and, most importantly, our state. As is our mission of LSU, to be here to teach, to heal, and to serve. So 2020, bring it on. You've made LSU the best we could ever be. Yes, we had to pause. We had to look inward. We had to reach within, come together to pull through. But now we prepare to welcome our students back in new and innovative ways. Whether they join us in person in Baton Rouge, Eunice, Shreveport, our students returning to our medical centers to continue to serve our most vulnerable citizens, everyone has pulled together to make this possible. So, as the national champions on the sports field for the year 2020, we have been the national champions leading the nation. and I commend everyone who's had a piece of this work. We are very excited to welcome and include everyone in this new class, welcome back our faculty, and continue to do that which we do the best. Thank you to everyone. Thank you all for all the work, the determination, and the fighting spirit that is LSU as we go forward. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 11th, 2020 in Baton Rouge. And as my prayer has finally been answered, we are here in person, and I look forward to being in person then as well. Please wear your mask, wash your hands, and sanitize so we can all come together again. If there is no further business to come before the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Williams, second. Mr. Starnes, is there any objection? With no objection, this meeting is adjourned. I'll ask the supervisors to join me across the hall for a few minutes.